Today, we're diving into one of the most dramatic power shifts in the ancient world. It's a story that's got everything: a fallen king, his successor, and a truly unexpected, beautiful poem that ties them together forever. This is the story of 2 Samuel, chapter 1.
How the mighty have fallen. You've probably heard that line before. It's from an incredible lament written by David. But here's the real head-scratcher. Why would you write such a moving, heartbreaking tribute to your predecessor, King Saul, the very same guy who spent years trying to hunt you down and kill you? To figure that out, we first need to understand the absolute chaos he left behind. So, I want you to picture this. The kingdom of Israel is in a complete tailspin. Their army has just been wiped out by the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. Their king, Saul, is dead. And his son, Jonathan, the heir to the throne, is also dead. I mean, this isn't just a bad day at the office, it's a total catastrophe. A power vacuum has just opened up, and in a single day, the entire nation has been left completely rudderless. Okay, so let's get the timeline straight here. Around 1011 BC, that disastrous battle happens. Just a few days later, the news finally reaches David, who is in a town called Ziklag. And this one moment, this single transfer of information, is the pivot on which the whole future of the kingdom is about to turn. And it all comes down to one messenger who thinks he's about to get the promotion of a lifetime. And right into the middle of all this chaos walks this young Amalekite guy, coming straight from the battlefield. He rushes to find David, totally convinced he's holding a winning lottery ticket. I mean, think about it. David was Saul's #1 rival, right? So the guy who brings the good news of the king's death, and hey, maybe takes a little credit for it, he's got to be in for a huge reward. Well, as we're about to see, he could not have been more wrong. So here's how it all goes down. He shows up, his clothes are torn, dirt on his head, putting on a big show of grief. He tells David, yup, the battle's lost and Saul and Jonathan are dead. But then he adds a little spice to the story, a detail he completely made up. He claims he found Saul leaning on his spear, wounded, and that the king himself begged him to deliver the final blow. And for proof, he dramatically presents the king's crown and his bracelet. And then he just stands there, waiting for the praise, the money, the whole shebang. But there's no reward, no celebration, no thank you, just this bone-chilling question. There's only pure cold fury from David. You see, the messenger made a massive, catastrophic miscalculation because he just didn't get one of the most sacred ideas in David's entire worldview. And it all boils down to this one powerful concept, Mashiach, or the anointed one. To David, Saul wasn't just some king. He was God's chosen king. To be anointed meant you were literally set apart by God himself for a job. So even though Saul had become a terrible king, and even though he was David's mortal enemy, he was still the Lord's anointed. For this messenger to brag about killing him, that wasn't just treason. That was like boasting that you had attacked God's own authority. And that was a fatal mistake. So after having the messenger executed, David's rage just melts away, and it's replaced by something totally different: deep, public grief. He and his men, they tear their clothes, they fast, they mourn. But David, he goes a step further. He sits down and writes this stunning poem, a formal lament, that he commands to be taught to everyone in Judah. This wasn't him just scribbling in a diary. This was a national address set to music. And this wasn't just any old sad song. It's a specific literary art form called a kina, a formal dirge. Think of it less like a personal ballad and more like an official state anthem of mourning. It has a specific structure, a specific rhythm, and a very clear public purpose. This shows us that David is already thinking like a king, right? He's processing this national tragedy, not just for himself, but for the soul of the entire nation. And when you really look at the poem, you see it's a masterpiece. David uses repetition, hammering home that phrase, how the mighty have fallen, 3 times, letting the shock sink in. He even uses a poetic curse, basically ordering the mountains of Gilboa to stop producing dew or rain as a sign of mourning. But maybe the most brilliant part, he praises his enemy, Saul, right alongside his best friend Jonathan, honoring them both as these incredible, unified warriors. It's just amazing. But, of course, the most personal, gut-wrenching lines are for Jonathan.
Verse 26 is famous, and yeah, it's often debated. You can see how different translations handle it, using words like wonderful, extraordinary, or surpassing the love of women. Now, while it's popular today to explore romantic ideas here, most scholars agree that in the original context, this language was all about the unbreakable, powerful loyalty of their covenant bond, a friendship that was seen as more profound and rare than almost any other relationship.
Which, brings us all the way back to the central question. Why? Why would David compose this elaborate public tribute for the man who tried to kill him? Was this real, honest-to-goodness grief? Was it a brilliant political move? Or was it an act of deep religious piety? Well, the fascinating thing is the answer really depends on who you ask. You've basically got three major ways people look at this. Jewish tradition often sees David's actions as genuinely noble, a perfect example of how to unify a broken nation. Early Christian writers saw it as a kind of foreshadowing of Christ, who showed love for his enemies. But a lot of modern scholars, they take a more cynical view. They see a masterful piece of political propaganda, perfectly designed to win over Saul's loyalists and smooth David's own path to the throne. And honestly, it's entirely possible all three have a piece of the truth.
So why are we still talking about this ancient story of succession and sorrow today? Because it forces us to look in the mirror and ask some timeless questions about leadership, about integrity, and about something we all have to deal with: how we react to the fall of a rival. For the people hearing this back then, the message was pretty clear: respect God's chosen leader and unite the nation. But for us today, the story hits a little differently. It asks, when a rival falls, whether it's in your career, in politics, whatever, what's your first instinct? Is it to celebrate, or is it to show some grace? Do you see an opportunity for personal gain or a moment to act with integrity?
Think about it. David somehow managed to honor the office of the king, even while being hunted by the man who held that office. And that leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? In our own lives, at work, in our communities, how do we show respect to authority figures we completely, fundamentally disagree with? It's not an easy thing to do, but it's the question this story won't let us ignore.
Because in the end, when you strip away all the politics, all the strategy, and all the theology, what are you left with? A story about profound human loss. David's Lament is a political document, for sure. It's a work of art. It's a theological statement. But at its very heart, it's the cry of a man who just lost his best friend in the world. And it's a powerful reminder that even in the grand sweep of history, the deepest truths are always the most personal.